Hey guys, welcome to Y&R Daily News YouTube channel. Today's topics: Young and the Restless Spoilers revealed the tense conflicts in Phyllis and Lily's relationship that bring the plot to a head. The plot is extremely tense as Kane faces the intense pressure Lily brings. The Newman Media article has just hit like a hammer, exposing a chain of consequences that leaves Kane stunned. He calls Phyllis in a state of confusion and hurt pride, and she, who is on the thin line between change and relapse, is curious about the emotional storm of a man who was once an annoying but unconsciously attractive piece. A discreet appointment in the name of work exchange, about crisis management, about media blowback, about how to keep a brand and reputation from being swallowed by a wave of gossip. The meeting took place in a private room on the upper floor, a space where Phyllis had signed sharp contracts, and where she had often drowned her loneliness in a sense of victory. She entered with a red demeanor, bright hair, direct gaze, a sharp but warm tone that made the other person believe that she was still alive. Kane arrived a beat late, revealing the confusion he had been suppressing all day. On the table was a printed copy of the article, highlighted in yellow details that put him at a disadvantage in the eyes of shareholders, partners, and even his family. Phyllis listened without interrupting, jotting down key points. Who leaked? What legal risks would a correction of facts entail? How much public tolerance there was for a name as eventful as Kane? And whether the story could be turned around to a man in the midst of a storm, still wanting to make things right. Her strategic coolness kept her in control, but it was the calm of a woman who had been beaten down many times that forced Kane out of his shell. He revealed his fears of losing his chance to come back, of being crucified, of being the butt of jokes once again. The lines of business exchange began to blur as emotions overflowed. Phyllis laid out a roadmap for managing the crisis, immediately asked Newman Media to correct any vague details, arrange a lengthy interview with a reputable source to present a coherent account of what he had actually done, right and wrong, and leverage her connections inside and outside the industry to steer the story along the lines of innovation without trampling on norms. She didn't promise absolute honor because she knew that was an illusion. She only pledged the ability to pull Kane out of the swamp in time, an art she had mastered. It was at this moment, when a mixture of gratitude and trust replaced confusion, that Kane revealed a soft side to Phyllis, a touch that seemed accidental but lingered longer than usual, a distance shortened between them, and a silence that both understood to be dangerous. All of it took place in a setting of soft lighting and a half-open door, a stage too ripe for error, and true to the ironic nature of Genoa City. No secret can last more than an afternoon. The person who caught Phyllis's eye was none other than Lily Winters. Lily had come to the building with a last-minute update. A media partner had contacted her for a follow-up interview about a Newman Media article and wanted to confirm her position on the story surrounding Kane. Lily had chosen to stop by this private room, only to borrow a file. Phyllis had kept a habit that worked well when the two shared a few tenuous links between work and competition. The door swung open, and the picture before her eyes answered many of her lingering doubts. Phyllis standing close to Kane, an intimacy that could not be disguised as purely partner support. For a moment, Lily did not speak, nor did she reveal the storm of emotions, but that silence was more revealing than any accusation. From that moment on, the main axis of the story moves into motion. For Lily, it's not just a stab at self-esteem. It's also a warning about the slipping boundaries she struggled to rebuild after so many betrayals, hurts, and the greater good. She's known Kane long enough to recognize when he's weak and who can easily adjust his course with a well-laid plan. Phyllis, in Lily's eyes, is more than just a seductress. She's an architect of persuasive moves, sometimes beyond the realm of safety. And for Phyllis, Lily's arrival is also a wake-up call. What she wants is to control the conversation and gain an advantage, not to start a private war with a woman she knows won't let go. Phyllis immediately reassembled the business atmosphere, trying to bring the story back to the article, crisis, solution, and milestone. But Lily's eyes had already captured enough details to understand the nature of the problem. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. The consequences spread like oil in the media. Rumors of Phyllis and Kane's secret meeting spread through anonymous text messages. At Chancellor Winters, some people began to question where Lily really stood in this picture, as the comm driver, or as the woman who had just been stabbed in the back and might react with an emotional decision. At Newman Media, the article was suddenly reread with a new lens. Was the targeting of Kane so strong for the sake of facts, or because someone wanted to fan the flames of a personal relationship for other purposes? And in the family sphere, always a catalyst for flare-ups, Phyllis's inner circle will face the same old question. Is she really making amends, or just subtly redressing old habits? The most heated point, of course, is the Lily-Kane-Phyllis triangle. Lily is in no rush to express her anger. She chooses the I strategy, keeping her schedule the same, speaking briefly, handing off tasks by email rather than face-to-face, cutting off any room for friendly misunderstandings. The danger of this strategy is that it forces the other person to see the gap widening. Kane, who needs someone to trust, is left even more alone. He knows he's made a mistake on the emotional border, but he also finds himself being pushed into the corporate role despite his efforts to make amends at work. Phyllis realized that all her crisis management maneuvers would be meaningless if the focus of the controversy shifted from the article to her personal life. She needed something big enough to shift the focus again. A new set of facts, a third party to appear, or a public commitment that would put an end to the speculation. But Genoa City was not a place for periods, only commas, dashes, and secret parentheses. A few details leaked out. The person who provided data for the Newman Media article had vague connections to a project Lily herself was trying to promote. A minority shareholder suddenly dumped her shares just as rumors of an unclear relationship emerged. A misdirected email revealed that someone had suggested adjusting the tone of the article to emphasize personal errors rather than technical arguments. These pieces, when put together, paint a complex picture, and Phyllis senses opportunity. If she can prove the article is biased, she can both rescue Kane from the deepest quagmire and push public opinion back to the core issue of fairness in business communications. The hardest part, however, is the relationship between the three people. Lily is not easily persuaded by any perception-changing campaign. She needs honesty, clear behavior, boundaries re-established by actions, not promises. Kane must answer for himself. Is he coming to Phyllis out of strategy or out of habit, relying on a magnet he once tried to deny? Is he willing to accept the Lily rule, or will he let his impulses carry him forward? And Phyllis, who always thinks faster than her emotions, must have the courage to slow down this time, put the benefit of her professional goals ahead of the dangerous hidden attraction. If she chooses right, she could become the one who restores order. If she chooses wrong, she will burn the only fragile bridge, leading her away from the reputation of storm maker. Kane couldn't bear to look at her for more than a breath. Phyllis took a deep breath, suppressed her impulse, and went into commander-in-chief mode. A strategist who lays out documentation, deadlines, accountability, and transparency step by step. She proposed a series of moves. Ask Newman Media to publish an update. Have Kane appear for a single, lengthy fact-checked interview. Lily to act as an independent examiner, both an overseer and a boundary keeper. It wasn't an apology, nor a plea for forgiveness. It was an invitation to a transparent process, where those who did wrong would be held accountable, those who were misunderstood would be vindicated, and rumors would die on paper. From there, the main plotline for the upcoming plot became clear. The confrontation between Lily and Phyllis wasn't just about a man. It was about how adults handle consequences, with impulsive emotions, or with structure and transparency. Where Kane falls between those two maps will determine his future, not just in his work, but in how he's perceived as a person. And in Genoa City, where every secret is eventually revealed, there will surely be more people standing outside that half-closed door. Summer can ask questions about her mother. Daniel can rehash old mistakes. Jill can use the situation to manipulate the power dynamics. Each character has a motive, an interest, a knife up her sleeve. But right now, at the intersection of hurt and reason, Phyllis has made a rare choice. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. Push her emotions to the background. Put her work first. And allow others, including Lily, to put her under a magnifying glass. Because perhaps she understands that a moment of being caught doesn't define a person, but her reaction after being caught does. And that's what makes the conflict between Lily and Phyllis the most compelling flashpoint of the story. Not because of who wins or loses, but because they force each other to grow up or fall together into the familiar darkness of Genoa City, where every mistake is very costly. Kane is at the center of all the trouble, and everyone is interested. The man is trying to get up after a series of mistakes, but once again enters the vortex of doubt, emotion, and Phyllis. Just an emotional phone call, a closed conference room, and a look that lasts longer than necessary. Everything is enough to turn rumors into fire, turn arguments into explosions. The question is, who will be the one to catch Phyllis in that awkward situation? And whose head will be the consequences? The article by Newman Median not only points out the old cracks in Kane's record, but also emphasizes the suspicion that he continues to hide something from the public and partners. It is written in an ambiguous tone, deliberately leaving gaps for readers to fill in with their imagination. The result, Kane's reputation faltered, his partnership slowed, and his phone rang off the hook. Calls that were professional and peppered with questions that seemed to be part of the truth. In the midst of all this chaos, Kane called Phyllis. In theory, it was a business call. Phyllis was someone who understood crisis communications, who knew how to turn a spotlight into a spotlight. But in reality, it was an emotional call. Kane was confused, and Phyllis, read in all her indomitable and passionate ways, was always the type of person who wouldn't back down from a storm. When the two met in a private conference room, in a hotel workspace that Phyllis had arranged, the situation was set. When the pressure was high enough, the line between work and private life could easily blur. The conference room was quiet. The curtains were drawn. The lights were dim. On the table was a red-penned print out of the article. Next to it, a crisis management plan, filled with bullet points, main spokesperson, replacement spokesperson, Q&A box, priority media outlets, negative scenarios. The two began to work properly. Phyllis asked Kane what his ultimate goal was, to restore his reputation or to aim for a higher position after the crisis. Kane replied that he wanted transparency, but did not want his private life to be torn apart for views. Phyllis analyzed, to block public opinion, one must take the initiative to attack, to seize the opportunity to publicly disclose enough information to quell rumors, but not shoot oneself in the foot. Kane nodded, but his eyes showed confusion every time he mentioned his family, his newly restored confidence. His voice dropped noticeably. The awkward moment came from something very human, a handshake that lasted longer than usual, a word of encouragement that went too far beyond the cold limits of professionalism. Phyllis looked into Kane's eyes, saw the hurt the article had just scratched. Kane looked at Phyllis, saw in her a dangerous but attractive energy, the kind that made one believe any wall could be breached. No words were too harsh, but the atmosphere in the room had changed, thickened, and brittle. With just a tilt, a moment of letting their guard down, the two of them were on the line between professional support and personal intimacy. In this context, the most logical person to come across, and the one with the strongest dramatic effect, was Lily Winters. First, Lily had a direct connection to Kane. Their pasts were tied together by both love and children. So any suspicions about Kane could sweep over her like a cold wind. Second, Lily and Phyllis were not peaceful parallel lines. They had had conflicts, different lifestyles, different ways of handling crisis. Third, Lily understood how quickly media and gossip spread. She knew that one unintentional photo, one closed door, was enough to drive any attempt at transparency into a corner. So Lily showed up. She came to discuss some serious issues related to the impact of the article, or simply because she heard Kane was there and wanted to hear him directly, without any media coordination. The conference room door opened, and Lily saw soft lights Kane and Phyllis, too close to be polite. The files ask you, and an atmosphere thick with emotion. There was no need for a kiss, no need for a hug. Just that quiet intimacy was enough to ignite. What made The Young and the Restless was not just the punchlines, but the moments when words failed before the gaze. Lily didn't need to raise her voice to question. Subscribe our channel for more latest update. She simply asked with her eyes, "Is this still a work session?" Kane, still reeling from the article and from her own newly realized emotions, was caught between a media crisis that needed to be quelled and a simmering crisis of trust. Phyllis quickly returned to professional mode, explaining the media plan, flipping through her notes, trying to restore order. But for someone as traumatized as Lily, the order of paperwork could not erase the emotional truth that had just been exposed in this room, because it forces all the characters to choose. Kane must choose between emotional comfort and procedural rigor. Phyllis must choose between her pride and the long-term interests of her clients. Lily must choose between her instinct to protect her boundaries and her belief in reason. The Young and the Restless is always at its best when it turns personal choices into major plot points. And that conference room scene is the hinge. As the conference room door closes after the initial shock, the three go on separate paths, but all know they will soon cross paths again, this time in a more public forum, where words become commitments and looks are no longer enough to hide the truth. With Newman Media continuing to throw smoke, social media waiting for new photos, partners wary, and families at a crossroads, the Phyllis Kane Lily trio is about to enter its most tense phase. Either reset the rules of the game or let rumors write the rest for them. Who caught Phyllis? The most logical and dramatic choice is Lily Winters, because only Lily's presence can shake three axes simultaneously: love, work, and honor. And once the axis of honor is shaken, the upcoming season will have the material to explode. Cold press conferences, sterile screening reports, backstage interrogations, and above all, decisive decisions that will redefine their relationship. Genoa City is used to storms, but this storm is different. It is fed by a lingering gaze, a half-open door, and an unnamed truth. The Newman Media article pushes Kane into crisis. Kane seeks out Phyllis to handle the media. During a tense work session, the emotional distance is erased just as Lily walks in and catches From that questioning look, the Lily-Phyllis relationship becomes a flashpoint, forcing all three to redefine the boundaries between work and private life. What's next is about transparency, safe harbors for all interactions, and an independent audit spearheaded by Lily, something that could clear up a rumor or expose a hard truth. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date. Subscribe our channel for more latest update.